Hello and welcome to the Creators Guild podcast. I'm Chris Howell, and with me,
Jared Lovelady.
and we're here to talk about all things creative. As usual, I put it too far over there. If you haven't gotten book one, A Flight from Shadows, go get book one. If you have it and you haven't left us a review or a rating, go do that. Every little bit helps. Jared, book two.
It's getting there.
It is. We actually said the end, and we have passed it off.
Yes. Passed it off to the editor.
It is out of our hands at this moment. Now it is a content editor who's going through the process for us. So who knows? Who knows what is going to come back and what that's going to look like, right?
Yeah. Hopefully,
Yes.
it won't be a whole lot.
Yeah. When we handed it off, I said, okay, my hope is we're going to get this back and the response is going to be, this is amazing. I wouldn't change a dang thing. Just proofread it and publish it. Sold. Chances?
Slim.
Don't say that. You should be more confident. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be great. It's just going to come back. It's going to be perfect. And there's not going to be any continuity errors. We didn't forget about any characters and just totally stop talking about anybody and leave them out of the book. None of that's going to happen, right?
I don't think so. I think we were pretty thorough this time.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, we really... there was a lot of rewriting. We did add from our original. We talked about this before, where we wrote book one, book two all together, and then went back and we made so many changes to book one. We're like, okay, well, we got to revise and rewrite a bunch of stuff in book two. So we revised. I almost said we revised. We revised and rewrote.
Probably half the book.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, we moved. Did every chapter move?
Not every chapter, but a lot of it did.
The prologue stayed the same. Well, no, it didn't stay the same. The prologue stayed where it was.
Yes.
But it did not stay the same. Yeah, not every chapter moved, but most of them moved. Jared, you went through and right after we finished book one and we were talking book two and book two edits, you read book two.
Yeah.
And remember, you got through like the first half.
Yeah, it was like pacing is terrible.
Yeah. Everything was out of sync. Everything was, I think we went right into like, la-di-da, here's things that's happening.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of where we were when we ended book one.
Yeah.
Originally.
Yeah, because it was all one book.
Yeah. And so when we broke it, we were kind of in a fun and games part of the overall story.
Yeah.
Which didn't work as a beginning to a new book.
No, not at all. So we said literally like, okay, well, like chapter 30 is going to be now chapter 2. And we'll rewrite it. And chapter 2, what was chapter 2 is now going to be like chapter 15. Like major restructuring of everything. I mean, I don't know how many documents we went through. Restructuring chapters and then being like, okay, well, that's out of sync. We need to reorganize more stuff, re-outline, write it again.
And then we had more ideas.
Yeah. Well, it was, we said, and we told Liz this because Liz is going through doing our content for us. Like, well, we decided like this character, we need to follow this character a little bit more. This character that isn't Tawara and Athandra. We need to follow them and get more from them to contribute in here. Said, but we didn't even have that before.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we got to better put that in. So yeah, lots of rewrites, lots of structural story changes. The plot stayed the same.
Yeah, the plot's the same.
Like everything that we originally had happen still happens. But we added in a lot of stuff where a lot of detail that we said, you know what, this is going to have bigger stuff for later on, implications and direct impacts on what's going to happen in book 3 and even book 10 and even like the very end. But I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, fingers crossed that it's like, well, I've got like, there's a few trouble spots here and here and here, and it'll probably take you a day to rewrite.
Yeah.
Yay. We'll see. Yeah. There's always the chance that it comes back and we are like Fantastic Mr. Fox. When Mr. Badger is like, Foxy, don't buy this. I'm telling you, don't buy this tree. And Mr. Fox is like, I appreciate your I'm paraphrasing, but I appreciate your input, but I'm going to ignore it.
I'm sure there'll be some of that.
I'm sure there'll be some. I'm sure there'll be like a little bit of that goes on. There has to be.
Yeah. I mean, because some of it's going to be creative differences.
Yeah.
Between what her opinion is and what our opinion is of where things are and where things are going. And
yeah,
we do know more of the story than she knows. You know?
Yeah. Some of it'll be, where we say, well, the difference here, Liz, is that you think this and we think this and you're wrong. And we'll just see how that goes over, right?
Yeah.
But I am excited, anxious. I mean, we're months behind where we wanted to be, but hey, we can now officially say, we have written 2 books, like completely written 2 books. The one still needs to be edited, but it's complete. It still is complete. We are part of a very low percentage of the world population and all of history, despite the millions of books that are out there. It's a very small percentage of the population that actually writes a book. And most books that are produced are actually additional books from people who wrote a first book.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Stephen King. How much does he pull the average up? Like a lot. Or there's some series that I heard about recently. I'm like, I haven't even heard of this before. And then they're like, oh yeah, it's got all these stories. It's fantasy. It's about knights and dragons and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, that sounds really interesting. Is that like a new story? No, it's been around for a little while. And I'm like, well, is it complete? No, they're still working on it. I'm like, oh, well, how many books are there right now? Like 36. Like, what?
Yeah, I don't know of any series that's
it's literally
36 books long.
Yeah, it's 36 or 38, and not every book, it's not like 500 pages per book. But we were talking last time about The Wandering Inn. 13 million words long.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
That's a lot of words. And the comment from the author, Pirate Ava, is, that's about 2/3. What?
Yeah.
But it's fun listening to it. We still haven't heard back from the narrator, but
no,
I think they have an official.
Yeah, we need to get on there.
Yeah, we'll get book 2 out. We'll get book 2 out to where it's actually out there, and then be like, okay, go read our books and see if you want to narrate for us, because she would do a really good job.
Yeah, she would.
Yeah, great voice talent there. We'll see where that goes. So we had an idea today. There's actually an author. Sometime maybe we'll end up getting him to come on our podcast. We really need to branch out this year. We get book 2 out. We need to do what we said we were going to do last year and have more authors on.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's just us, but it's scheduling.
Yeah. Yeah.
We haven't done a good job of nailing down schedules. So even people that we want to have on us, that we've talked to about having come on, it's we got to get a schedule down. We're sucking it. we're garbage at lining people up. But anyway, author Timothy McKay, he had a question. I was like, yeah, that's kind of an intriguing. I mean, I've talked about it before, but it's an intriguing question or comment on writing. And he mentioned, and we got into a little bit of a discussion, him and a couple other people, about putting into books. Does it turn you away from a book that you're reading if the story becomes a monologue, or you feel like you're being preached to? And what does it take for a story to become monologue-y and preachy? So I'm putting you on the spot a little, Jared. Have you come across, are there any things you can think of off the top of your head, scenes, movies, TV shows, books, stories, whatever, where you're like, bam, this was a terrible monologue?
I know there have been. I've been trying to come up with an example, and I'm coming up with a blank.
It's like when someone is like, who's your favorite band? And you're like, have I ever heard music before?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly where I'm at. I know there are some. I know there have been books I've put down because it's like, this is not, but I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah, I know there's some, that is one thing I'll say with, I've kind of harped on Stephen King a little bit in the past, that he has a lot of different themes and a lot of different ideas and whatnot that he covers in his writings. You can take a lot of things away from Stephen King's writing style. I still struggle with his endings. Still struggle with all the endings in all of his stories. But when you follow the different themes, you look at the different potential lessons or whatnot to take away, they're all intermixed into his writing. You could say, well, this book is an expose on whatever, political topic of the day. And the next person can be like, what are you talking about? It's about monsters and aliens. Mm-hmm. No. He actually weaves in all these little subtle things that might make you think about something, will have some underlying theme, underlying tone. And you don't know unless you actually consider and think about it at a deeper level than the basics of the story that's being told. So what I said in talking with Timothy was that for me, I'm not a fan of, we're sitting here talking and I'm kind of monologuing, and I do this a lot. But
but we're not writing a book.
Yeah.
About it.
Yeah, exactly. Jared, how am I venting?
You're very good at it. Very good at it.
I am very skilled. I can thoroughly go off on tirades. But for me, it's like, I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. Not usually. Sometimes I'll get in discussions about stuff, but usually I'm just like, I'm expressing my opinion, whatever. Or I'm frustrated with something. I'm like, gosh dang it, look at this ridiculous thing that's going on. But when it comes to writing, when it comes to storytelling, like there are things out there that just like, we're going to take this thing and shove it right in your face.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, why? Just tell me a story. There was a quote that I heard that was like, if you are gonna mix, if you're gonna put morals in, if you're gonna put some kind of theme, if you're gonna even if you're gonna address some whatever the topic du jour is, well, can you be subtle about it? Can you weave it into the story? It's like flirting. Like, when you introduce yourself to someone and drop a comment to them, say, flirt with them a little bit. You have your intention. Your intentions are there, but you got to be subtle, and sneaky is not the right word. What's the word I'm looking for? Trying to flirt, trying to win somebody over. You have to be dashing and debonair and subtle and have intrigue and all of these things. You don't walk up and open your trench coat and go, hey, but that's what so many people do. It's funny that one of the examples of, well, mix some humor in. Use some humor to mix in whatever the topic is you're talking about. And one of the topics one of the examples that was given was the movie Don't Look Up with Leonardo DiCaprio. They're like, well, hey, that's something that's addressing climate change. But, it uses the meteor that's headed toward the Earth as like, well, that's like climate change and it's coming at us. But this whole thing of, no, don't look up. Just ignore that there's a meteor coming at all. And I've watched the movie and I'm like, when you watch it as just a movie about a meteor coming, it's got a lot of funny stuff in it. The interesting thing is that was used as an example of be more subtle or use something else to reflect the thing and insert humor and stuff into that. And I'm like, yeah, they did that. Except when it came to the actual part where Leonardo DiCaprio stands up and, I don't know, 10 minutes of the movie of just him on a tirade. Nobody else says anything. It's just him talking. And I'm like, what? He's literally like blasting like at the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just had one big stupid monologue thing that made me just go, okay, garbage. I don't care about your arguments. Like, you went from this subtle play on a meteor's coming. It's kind of this whole subtle, you just blew all that out of the water. So the initial concept of let's make something that addresses a topic that you're passionate about. Agree, disagree, it doesn't matter. Whatever the topic is, here's something you're passionate about, and you want to do this, kind of a whimsical but a serious take, or a whimsical take on a serious topic, comical take on this serious topic, and address it in a completely different way. You're going to completely change what it is. This meteor's coming toward the Earth, and you're going to mix in interesting stuff and funny stuff and different levels of humor and whatnot into this story. And then you're going to totally ignore all of the comparison and just be like, now I'm just going to, all the stuff that I feel, I'm just going to go off on it. But I'm like, well, you can delete that scene complete. That whole 10 minutes, just bloop. It's ridiculous. Like, but it's just funny that was an example of, you could do something like they did with Don't Look Up. And I'm like, except that they didn't stick to what they were doing in Don't Look Up. They totally took that and went, hey guys, what if we did this? And then we interject everything. We don't even interject it. We just go, we're going to put a big turd right in the middle of your soup bowl. Like, ah. But one of the things we talked about, have you read Lord of the Rings, Jared?
Yeah, it's been a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been, when I replied to Timothy's comment and I said, I don't like preachiness. I don't like that in stories. I want stories to pull me into their world and then let me exist in that world without being pulled down by any of the drama or chaos or opinions of what exists in this world. Like, that's the whole reason I read, and I don't care about your take on whatever modern issue you're concerned about is when I'm reading about dragons.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't care less. And if you want to interject that from like this world's perspective, then I'm not going to keep reading this because I don't want that. I get enough of that on the daily basis here. Yeah. I don't need to read it from dragons. So my comment was that I don't need to hear the author's opinion through the voice of my characters. I don't care. I don't want to hear what your political or religious or whatever opinion of things are from out of the mouth of those characters. So somebody asked, well, what did I think about Gandalf? Did I not like Gandalf? And I was like, it's been a while since I read Lord of the Rings. So I looked up, I did just a quick search and was like, what's the longest speech or monologue Gandalf has? It's like 130 words, but he's talking about, it's not a monologue about some topic. It's about him describing like, oh, they're coming, the trolls are coming, and here's where they came from, and here's what we got to do, and we got to send up a signal, and stuff that pertains directly to the story and the world that they're in. Yeah. And the immediate threat that they're facing. That's what those long words are about. So I did a little bit more digging, and I'm like, okay, what are some things that Gandalf talks about that could be considered preachy? And what I realized, or the perspective that some other people have had, that I was like, yeah, this makes sense to me. This is why I think Gandalf didn't stand out as like, oh gosh dang it, stop preaching to me. Tolkien stopped preaching to me through Gandalf's voice. Is Gandalf didn't preach anything to me as the reader. One, he's a wizard. He's really old. He's wise. So, and he's a curmudgeon. Put those three things together. And the fourth thing is he does actually care about the characters, the other, Bilbo, Frodo, the dwarves in The Hobbit and in The Lord of the Rings. He cares about all those characters and what they're doing in their success. So his preaching, his interjecting of some moral code and whatnot, it's not directed at me. Me as the reader, I can take or leave Gandalf's advice and his commentary at any time. I can be like, oh, that's interesting. I might want to follow through with that on my own. Or I could be like, well, that's really good advice for Frodo, who you're talking to as a character in that world. Good job, Gandalf. Way to help Frodo. I'd never do that. You know what I mean? Like, that's the difference, is all of the everything that Gandalf spoke about, everything that he talked about, his approach. And I'm like, there's been people that have analyzed Tolkien's writings, and they're like, there's obviously his perceptions and interests and feelings all exist in in Lord of the Rings. I'm like, well, of course, that's something that comes out with every author. But what I see, at least, is that it's grounded in their world. It's not grounded in my world. Gandalf's worldview is not the worldview of the world that I live in. Even if those things are parallel, there's nothing from my world that's taken over and then interjected into Gandalf's view to try to preach to the reader. It's all grounded in his world with information and perspectives that directly apply to the other characters that exist in his world.
Mm-hmm.
So none of it feels preachy. Plus the fact that regardless of him being really old, really wise, and a curmudgeon, and really trying to actually help the characters he's with grow, he's also humble, comedic, and self-effacing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all of that makes for, well, it's a pretty, that's an easy character to enjoy and go right along with and be like, good job on your worldview, Gandalf, whether you agree with him or not. So it was just interesting. So that was one of the perspectives. And then somebody else said, they actually commented on that. They're like, they said that they emphasize that real difference comes in. You could have a worldview. It doesn't matter, worldview of whatever. You could have whatever topic, you could be talking about. There's stuff today in the world today. There's fascism and capitalism and communism and like whatever ism, pick an ism. You could be like, that's your shtick.
Mm-hmm.
Your shtick is go after whatever that thing is. Maybe I might completely disagree with your worldview all day long. But I might enjoy your reading, even if the characters in your book, in your story, are written to where they 100% support your worldview. As long as that worldview is not grounded in my world. It's grounded in some perspective for them in their world. And they come across as real characters who really feel this way because of whatever happened in their world. Like, the one person said, like, they actually really like, as an author, she said she likes trying to write character perspectives that she even disagrees with.
Mm-hmm.
Like if that character fell into our world and they were sitting across from each other, be like, I disagree completely with your worldview and your perspective and your morality and, whatever it is you feel like preaching about. I completely disagree. But she enjoys writing those characters to try to be like, okay, I need this character to have that perspective grounded in their world and for it to be real. And the only way to do that is if I can realistically make their argument and get myself in their head. And she said, there have been times where I write these characters and I write myself into changing my own worldview based on the character she's writing. I'm like, that seems like a pretty good way to approach.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a really good way to get into, I think, get into the head of somebody, of a mindset that is different from your own. And Timothy McKay, he had said, he was like, I used to really like getting into philosophy and, social whatever in reading. It's like, I think I've kind of started steering away from that. He's like, just give me sword fights and dragons and pirates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's really, I want good characters with good stories with that pull me in and make me want to step out of myself and experience the world you've created. And when you stop and monologue again, I'm like, I think she's attractive. I'm going to go see if I can convince her to go on a date with me. I need to be subtle and charming. So, how do I be subtle and charming? I grab my trench coat and go, hey, go on a date with me. Probably doesn't work out that way.
Not usually.
I don't know. I haven't tried it. Have you tried it, Jared?
No, I have not tried that.
We're still looking for a, philanthropist. We're looking. So maybe you haven't tried the trench coat method yet. That could be your subtle way of winning somebody over.
Yeah.
No. So what are your thoughts on that, Jared? I kind of went off there. I kind of monologued there for a little bit.
It's very distracting to me. I read or watch movies to escape, to be entertained.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to think too hard about hard topics. Not that I don't ever think hard about hard topics, but when I go to escape, not that I don't want them to ever deal with any kind of moral dilemma.
Yeah.
Because that, having that can enrich a story, but I don't want to be preached to about it. I want to, I can just agree or disagree with how the character feels about something.
Yeah.
Without being told that I need to agree with the character.
Yeah. So something you said there, you don't want to have to think, you want to escape. It's okay to have those moral dilemmas. You don't want to think about hard topics. But I would argue, or not argue, but I would ask, when you say that, it's like what about the topic of getting into the ifs and thens of time travel, or the what ifs about spatial relationships in this alternate universe, and jumping through space with a certain type of warp drive, or speed of light travel and time compression and stuff like that. Those can be pretty hard topics to face.
Yeah, but they're not. I don't have to have a moral directive on those.
Exactly. That's what I was going to is it's okay to have difficult subject matter.
Yeah.
It's okay to have moral dilemmas. When you say hard topics, and I understood what you meant, but I just wanted to kind of explore down that pathway a little bit. There's all kinds of hard topics that you might be like, oh, I love topic X, Y, or Z in this story type. I mean, if you could pick off the top of your head, like favorite story, movie, TV show, anything, and I'm putting you on the spot, but something you could be like, you know what, I really like X show, book.
I really like Star Trek.
Okay. So Star Trek. Are there pathways to explore in the world of Star Trek that could potentially be difficult paths to go down?
And there are even moral issues, or social issues.
Yeah.
In fact, that's part of what makes it good but it goes about it in a way where not always, and sometimes they do lean heavily one way or another.
Yeah.
But you don't have to agree with them to understand the story.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with them to enjoy the story.
I mean, you and I have talked about is it the prime directive? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
So what's I don't remember like what the actual prime directive is.
Not to interfere in the natural order of non-warp species. Or just species,
like
other species in
they're
general.
non-interventionists.
Yeah, non-intervention.
So you and I have talked about the prime directive and got into discussions. I mean, there's all kinds of forums online that debate the prime directive, right?
Yeah.
And it's debated and discussed from all different angles of pros, cons, how it should exist, who's even behind the prime directive, why does it exist, who's the coalition or whatever, the
Federation.
The Federation. Yeah. See how much I know about Star Trek. I've never been a Trekkie. Never gotten into Trekkie. Jared really likes Star Trek. Some of my siblings really like Star Trek. And I watch pieces, and sometimes I'm like, it's kind of entertaining. And then I'm like, how do people watch 40 years of this? But a lot of people, millions of people do. So, I don't know. I guess, millions of people can be wrong. I don't know. Anyway, but no, we've gotten into the discussions. Discussions about the prime directive and who are the Federation. Is it the Federation or Confederation?
Federation.
The Federation. Yeah, Federation, Star Trek, ships, blah, blah. Yeah. Okay. So who are the Federation? Why do they have the non-intervention policy? Why is that the prime directive as they go out and go to where no human has gone before? We've discussed that. We've talked about what is it that where they're like, I want a glass of water. Glass of water. What's that? The replicator?
Yeah.
So you got the replicator. You have what's the beam? Beam me up. Transporter. See, I'm on a roll here. Like, there's so many implications. You and I have talked a little bit about that. There's so many implications. So it's okay to talk. It's okay to have difficult concepts, and even morally based difficult concepts and challenges to face, and moral, philosophical, political, all those topics.
Yeah, but keep them within the context of your story.
Yeah. That's one thing I haven't watched all of the, there's, what is there, like, I don't know how many, there's Deep Space Nine, the Next Generation, I don't know how many there are.
I don't even know how many there are.
There's a lot.
Yeah, there are a bunch. You like Lower Decks?
I love Lower Decks. Yes. I definitely love. If you have not watched Lower Decks,
yeah, that's a must watch.
Yeah, your life is not as good as it could be. But yes, definitely fan of Lower Decks. If all of Star Trek was Lower Decks, I would be like, sold. Done. Love it. But no, we've gone into all of sorry, I got derailed there for a minute. Sometimes I get derailed. I don't know if you know this. But I can't recall anything in Star Trek, at least in the episodes that I've seen, where it's like, we're going to take this topic that is a social, political, philosophical, moral issue that we're dealing with right now in our country, and we're going to take it and slap you in the face with it. But maybe is there anything like that you've seen?
I can think of one episode of Next Generation that's pretty But even then, they did it in a you decide kind of way,
Yeah.
you know. But I can really only think of the one off the top of my head. Now I've not seen all like the original series.
Yeah.
I know they covered some at the time controversial topics.
Yeah.
But even then, like I can think of one that covered race. They still,
Yeah. It all existed in the context of their world.
mm-hmm.
Even if it was the same struggle, it existed in the context of their world. And like you said, anything that I have seen, a lot of it is even if the opinion kind of leans a little bit to one side, the perspective still comes back of, hey, you got to decide. You
Yeah.
decide what you think about this.
It's more of a present the issue, and then maybe we should reflect on this issue.
Yeah.
At the end, this is something that you should reflect on. But then they don't tell you have to think this way or that way.
Yeah. The biggest thing is the transporter and the replicator. You and I've talked about this. I like it. One of the things that got me thinking about it was there was I don't remember if it was a meme or a little 4-panel cartoon or something where it was like every time the people transported back to the ship, they were like, I always feel like really good after I get transported back. And like they were trying to figure out what it was. And then they realized Scotty or whoever that was beaming them up had something that he'd written into the program that was like, are they going to poop soon? We'll just leave that behind. So that every time they come back, they're like, I feel so relieved. Like, yes, you do. You're welcome. And they found out like, wait, he's been doing that the whole time? Interesting. But it got me thinking, I'm like, for the transporter to work, the energy, matter can't be created or destroyed. Energy can't be created or destroyed. E equals MC squared. Energy is just matter.
Mm-hmm.
The fundamentals of makes up matter. Matter in motion creates energy, or it is a state of causes. There are states of energy that exist. What's that?
Right. Matter is just a really slow state of energy, basically.
Yeah. So I'm like, you would have a completely closed system on like the Enterprise. You have the replicator where you can get food. You have the transporter that can transport people. Like, yeah, I know they came up with rules for it and everything. And like, but if you think about it from a mathematical physics perspective, if you could do any of those things, the number of things you could do with it is infinite. Like nobody would ever be sick. Nobody would ever get old. Like the whole thing of you could literally be like, nobody ever has to poop again.
Yeah.
Nobody ever has to sleep again. Because we're just going to randomly throughout the day be like, we're going to transport you from where you're at right back to where you're at. But we're going to transport you in a state of you're now refreshed.
Yep.
You don't have to eat. You don't have to sleep. You don't have to poop.
Yeah.
If you do eat, if you do sleep, if you do poop, it's because you want to. That could be like everybody on the entire ship. I was thinking about it even from the perspective of like mechanics and stuff. In order for that system to be able to work and do what it does, you could the blasters, they shot us. Well, we still have energy to the replicator and to the transporter. All right, well, fix the broken part. Zoop, zoop. Done.
Yeah.
I don't know. That is totally different topic than the getting into. But there are real discussions about that.
Mm-hmm.
And that discussion exists entirely within the world of Star Trek.
Yeah.
You can have those social, political, philosophical discussions and have them in the context of that world without interjecting anything from our world into it, without having any of our modern day, or it could be a reflection of a modern day thing. I don't want conflict in the Middle East to exist in Star Trek.
No.
You have something that's identical to it in Star. Well, great, it exists there.
Right.
Does it? You've got the different sides, different things that are going on over there that you're like, oh, this looks really familiar. Even the discussions, that seems pretty familiar. And that's okay, as long as it is their world.
Mm-hmm.
And you can discuss the moral implications, the political implications, the philosophical debates and discussions and everything in the context of their world. And you can have an argument, a debate, a discussion with anybody, regardless of their grounding in this world about the discussion in that world, and still walk away friends.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Maybe. There are some stronger fans out there.
Yeah. And I could definitely see that. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's fan bases like that for almost everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Where you're like, I don't think I'm really glad that you enjoy this as much as you do, and you're into it as much as you are. Never leave your basement. But for the most part, you can have those moral and philosophical discussions because it's centered around their world, not our world.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fine having the moral, philosophical, political discussions in our world about our world. I don't want to have those discussions when I'm watching a movie about dragons.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh. As soon as I see stuff like that, I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care. It's what was there's a couple things that I saw. One was if you're writing and you're trying to input something into your story, and suddenly you find yourself writing a Wikipedia page.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're monologuing and your audience is already asleep.
Yep.
So fix it, change it. Don't do that. If you want to interject whatever thing you might be interested in that day, or might be your passion, put it in the context of that world and then sprinkle it through.
Yeah. Find a way to incorporate it into your story.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the other? There was a quote. There was a one comment that we saw that you and I looked at that was like, it's like your teacher giving you
an assignment to write an essay, 500-word essay.
Yeah. Like, we're going to write a story about dragons. And then the teacher's like, great, give me a 500-word essay about dragons. Like, son of a,
Yeah.
Your reader's thinking the same thing. They're going, son of a. Hermione Granger was interested in werewolves. Or no, Hermione Granger, messing up the story. They were talking about Lupin. When Lupin was at the school, Defense Against the Dark Arts, and Snape tells him, go to page whatever, and they're looking at werewolves, talking about werewolves. And then he's like, write a paper about werewolves. And everybody's like, oh my gosh. I'm like, you're talking about werewolves, real werewolves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's actually werewolves. And you just made it boring. and stupid. You know, that is that's the monologuing. That's the diatribe that gets thrown in there. Is you can make if you can make werewolves and dragons and magic boring, congratulations. You know,
Mm.
you just became the monologuist and the diatribist, and you're now preaching to everybody. Hopefully, we have none of that in our books.
Hopefully. We've, I mean,
I don't think there's going to be any. I don't think there's anything preachy. Like we haven't. There's nothing relevant to our world whatsoever
mm,
in anything. We're just trying to write a story, but the principle still applies to world descriptions, world building, character backgrounds, things like that. Don't just data dump. Don't let your story be a Wikipedia page. If you're like, I'm going to introduce this character. Now we're going to start with, Clive Clifton was born in 1473, RST. And RST that means,
yeah.
don't write that.
No, don't write that.
So
it's boring.
Yeah.
It's boring. It's, it turns the reader's mind off, or it'll either turn their mind off and they'll just drudge through whatever part that is until it gets to something else, or it'll totally turn them off to your stuff,
potentially forever.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I don't want to read this story. So, I mean, we've talked about a bunch of things not to do.
Mm-hmm.
One of the tips that I saw that I was like, that's actually a really good idea, and I hadn't thought about it. I think we might have done it. We've interjected some humor into some stressful or heavier situations.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I don't think we were actively thinking about here's a way to lighten this up a little bit. I think one of the times we actually did say that, but it was just a specific scenario where we're like, this needs to be a little bit lighter, so we lighten it up a little bit. But if you're like, well, I feel like my character that I'm writing, the bad guy is monologuing for too long, or the main character is going off on this topic, and yes, he's very passionate, but it's too much. That's where you got to think, do you have a court jester?
Mm-hmm.
And you think about somebody in that role who can just, like in the Stormlight Archive books, Wit, who's the king's wit. His name is Wit. He's also the king's wit, and he's allowed to say like whatever. They can get into these heated arguments, and he steps in and says something that everybody's like, what? Like, can you say that to the king? Like, yeah, he can't. You can't. You say that to the king, he might pull his sword out and cut you in half.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a big sword that will actually do that. And it's on his side right there. He might chop you in half. But Wit, who's the king's wit, he's like the court jester guy, he can say that. So interject that in, write another character. If you're like, I need some way to lighten the heaviness of this up, bring in somebody else who their purpose is to carry the lightheartedness through, to interject whimsy and wit and some other level of mood change.
Yeah, a comic relief.
Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like slapstick comic relief. It can truly be witty.
Yeah.
Look at when I think about writing like that, Shakespeare's characters, one of the things Much Ado About Nothing, they're like betrayal and death and broken hearts and all this stuff. and he has two of the characters that hate each other, that they try to set him up and get him to fall in love, and they're like, they also are heartbroken and distraught, and they're gonna challenge, one of the guys gonna sword fight one of his best friends, all this stuff, but he interjects humor through them. And then he has like the sheriff who arrests the bad guys, who catches the bad guys and arrests them, who's like an idiot. In the movie Much Ado About Nothing, it's played by Michael Keaton. And he's like, he approaches the guy, and he said everything, he uses big words that don't make any sense. And he's talking to, I can't remember the guy's name. He's talking to him, and he's like, good sir, we have come to tell you that we have been told, we have apprehended such foes who have mistreated and bespoke in horrible measure against. And the guy's like looking at him like, I have no idea what you're talking. I can't even understand what you're saying. And he's like, sir, you are so tedious. And he's like, oh, but thank you, sir. But I would bestow upon you. He's like, I thank you for saying this, and I bestow upon you all of my tediousness. He's like, you bestow your tediousness upon me. He's like, yes, and in good measure. And, like this character who's supposed to be saving the day, and he's an idiot. But it's written in like a hilarious way. And the movie, it's really funny to watch Michael Keaton in that role. But you have characters like that. Like that's a really good way to break up those heavy things. If you want to write, if you want to get into those philosophical, into those discussions, bring some humor back into it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned, or I brought up the Don't Look Up, and another one, a story that it tells a story. Some people like it, some people don't, but Ayn Rand, the Atlas Shrugged. And I'm like, it tells an interesting story, but in the middle of the story, there's a radio broadcast. And in that radio broadcast, it's literally, I'm like, nobody would listen to this. I know, because I was like, oh my gosh. It's like pages. I listened to the audiobook. It's like a 35 or 40 minute thing, and they take over the radio, and they're broadcasting over the radio, and it's this person talking to the people. I'm like, no, you're trying to talk to me, the reader of this book, and I now hate you for writing this. I'm like, this is so arduous and tedious. And on the audiobook, I mean, I didn't even read it, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen to the audiobook. I'm going to get through it. Listen to the audiobook. And then I'm like, I got through like 4 minutes. Then I'm like, skip 30 seconds. How long do I'm like, nope, still going. Nope, still, yep, up. I'm like, I still haven't read the whole thing. I just know every part I started listening to, I'm like, just hit me in the head with a hammer for crying out loud. So there are some big, Don't Look Up, Leonardo DiCaprio did it. Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged did it. Like, just tell the story, interject if you want to intermingle your stuff, do it subtly, do it in a way that exists in their world. Don't shove it in my face and try to cram it down my throat. Because I'll do exactly what I did in both Atlas Shrugged and in Don't Look Up. And I'll go, still going. Oh, good. Back to the show. But there are a lot of people that you get to stuff like that, and they'll go, well, I'm not going to fast forward through it. I'm going to take this book and go, and I'm done with that.
Mm-hmm.
So don't do it. Don't be those authors. Be better than them. Doesn't mean you can't have moral perspectives. It doesn't mean you can't have moral conundrums. You can't address difficult topics. But if you're gonna do it in a way that keeps readers' attention and keeps them there with you. Even if they disagree with your perspective, write it in a way that keeps them involved with you in the journey of your story. If you don't care about keeping them in the journey of your story, then go be go be a commentator.
Yeah.
Or just write a pamphlet about whatever it is you want to rant and rave about and distribute it to people. Otherwise, try to be, in my opinion, if you're gonna talk, if you want to, whatever topic it is, whatever you're passionate about, whatever it is you think you want to put into that story, if you can't do it subtly and you can't interweave it into the thing, then you're not a good enough writer to address that issue.
Yeah.
Don't tell a story. Go have a podcast. Go create a blog. Go rant and rave about whatever you want. But if you're going to tell a story, tell the story and weave whatever you want into it. If you can't weave it in, don't write it in. I know from my perspective, if you can't weave it in, then I'm not going to read your stuff. I might try it the first time, but I won't give it a second shot. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, if that's how you write, if you write trying to slap people in the face with your opinions about whatever topic, if I want that, there's all kinds of commentators and blog posts and all kinds of stuff where I can go get that anywhere I want, whatever perspective or whatever side of the argument I want. I can put myself into any kind of echo chamber. There's all kinds of echo chambers that I can go find. I don't need an echo chamber with dragons.
Mm. All right.
Yeah. Moral of the story is, if you want to put morals in, do it in a way that challenge yourself to be a good writer. Challenge yourself that no matter what the topic is you're interjecting into that story, that you can ground it in the world where it exists. And anybody who reads your story, regardless of their political leanings, economics, their moral stance, that they can still enjoy your story. If you can't write without kicking people out of your story because you got to slap them in the face, then stop writing. Go do something else. But I'm not saying stop writing. I'm saying challenge yourself that if you want to interject things, become a good enough writer that you can put your perspectives in and still have people who disagree with you enjoy your style, enjoy your writing, and keep coming back to find you. Like, if you can do that, great. If you can win people over, maybe not even win people over to your argument, but if you can win people over to keep coming back and reading you, you'll have won the accolades of becoming, whatever accolades you get for being a good author, you'll have earned them. Don't write for echo chambers. Don't write to monologue. Don't write to slap people in the face. Tell stories. If you have to say it out loud, you need to become a better writer. So that's my perspective. Well, kind of spun out a little bit there and kind of went and monologued a little bit. But in the words of Syndrome, like, you caught me monologuing. So, go write, try writing, write good things, tell good stories. And if you're gonna tell moral and whatever stories, do it in a way that make people want to keep reading. regardless of their perspective of you. And thanks for coming along with us. Hopefully this topic kind of resonates with somebody. If you have a different opinion, that's great.
Yeah, share it with us.
Yeah, share it with us. Let us know how your opinion is different, what your perspective is. Maybe you really like monologues. If you do, tell us why. I'd like to understand that. And hopefully we should be hearing back in a couple of weeks, within the next couple of weeks, on editing. That'll give us an idea of where we're headed time frame. We do have, mention again, Extremicon coming up.
No, Tremendicon.
What's that? Tremendicon coming up the last Friday in May, right?
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Friday in May, and then the 1st and 2nd of June, right?
No, the 1st is Sunday. So
whatever day. Well, yeah.
I know because I had to take off work. So.
Oh, okay. I'm so messed up. Yeah. The weekend that becomes June. That Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Tremendicon, the Oasis Convention Center in Springfield, Missouri. Come see us. We'll be there. You'll be able to walk right in and be like, bam, we're there right in front of you. It should be fun. It was fun last year.
Yeah.
Come and meet
forward to it.
a lot of different creators. So hopefully we see you there, and hopefully we have some good news soon on book 2 when it's going to come out. Till next time, go in good spirits. Thanks for listening to the Creators Guild podcast. Don't forget to get your copy of A Flight from Shadows, available on Amazon. While you're there, please rate it and give it a review. If you like the Creators Guild, please like and subscribe, and make sure to share it with your friends. Until next time, go in good spirits.